Three friends boarded Disney's Galactic Starcruiser to seek their destiny and emerged as heroes of the Halcyon. Welcome to Heroes of the Halcyon, the best, and to the best of our knowledge, only Galactic Starcruiser Superfan podcast on the interwebs. I'm Galactic Starcruiser Superfan Drew, and with me are...
Superfan Christine.
And Superfan Martin.
Martin, we have yet another banger. We've had so many bangers of episodes. Martin, who are we talking to today?
Well, I'll tell you what, we pay to go on Galactic Starcruiser, but our guest gets paid to be on Galactic Starcruiser. It's actually a cast member who we met on Twitter through just a random exchange after our initial Starcruiser visit. Name's Jay, the crucial crew member, and he's a real cool guy, and we can't wait to talk to him. Let's get to our conversation. Well, Jay, thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today. And something that we like to, ask all of our guests to kind of give an idea of, their history with Star Wars to our listeners is, what is your earliest Star Wars memory?
This is actually a really awesome question. I grew up within kind of a Star Wars family. It was really my brother. My brother was a huge Star Wars fan. He was born in 1971, so he was on board right when A New Hope came out, and he had all the action figures. So I honestly remember, and I'm almost sounding like Princess Leia in Return of the Jedi. It was like images or feelings, really, where I remember his room and the toys, and I remember playing with some of the action figures. But my first memory of the movies actually was a recorded version of Star Wars on VHS. I remember just watching that all the time, and it had the commercials in there. And I remember even some of the commercials that were within that VHS, and I really wore that out. And I think Dano, was your previous guest. I think you basically said the same thing, where I wore that VHS tape completely out, and to the point of it breaking.
That's awesome.
So yeah, Star Wars, watching the VHS and playing with those action figures. I remember that at a very young age, even like images of it when I was probably 3 years old.
We all had that VHS tape.
Oh, yes, absolutely, yes.
I can watch Star Wars at any time I want.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's the funny thing is, we're the same age as your brother. So,
yeah.
When Star Wars came out, we couldn't watch it anytime we wanted to. And going to get to see Star Wars was like the biggest treat in the world. Like, my goodness, we're going to go see Star Wars? Wow.
Right.
So, yeah, the kids nowadays, they can see it anytime they want.
They don't know how good they got it, and I want them to get off my lawn.
Well, Jay, with so many, movies and TV shows and video games, what is your favorite Star Wars media of any type?
And I have to take this back to the originals, the trilogy, and it kind of fluctuates. It just depends on the time of year as what my favorite is, but because I have a soft spot for each of the originals. So like I said, A New Hope, I remembered watching on the VHS, and Empire Strikes Back, I would probably say is probably my favorite. I mean, a lot of people go with that one if they grew up with the originals. And I have to say that that hit me as far as it had a lot of meaning to me, a lot of parallels to me growing up and things that I was going through. I kind of compared a lot to my life to Empire Strikes Back and the struggles that I had. So yeah, that's definitely my favorite. But even Return of the Jedi, that was the first one I saw in the theaters. So I even have a real soft spot for that one too, because I remember seeing that in the theater. So it just depends on what I'm in the mood for currently, of what my favorite one is at the time. But it's definitely one of those three at any given moment. But I tell you right now, I've been on a Clone Wars kick. So I've been watching the Clone Wars series a lot. I just love that whole series.
It's the only positive thing that came out of COVID is that we were stuck at home, and I was able to watch all of the Clone Wars and all of Rebels.
So you mentioned some parallels with Empire Strikes Back. You weren't caught in an ice cave or had one of your hands chopped off, I hope.
Well, I did originally live in Maryland, so it was very cold and snowy there. So,
Nice.
But I do remember playing in my backyard with my neighbors and acting out those scenes, which was, really cool. And that was always my favorite, the Hoth scenes and the Hoth battle and everything. That was probably one of my favorite parts of any of the movies.
Seeing that for the first time when they all line up and they're looking through the
binoculars.
I know there's a name for
macro binoculars.
Macro binoculars, and they're looking through, and you just see the start, and then you just recognize the scale of these things, and it was just amazing.
What is it about Hoth? Because Hoth is everyone's favorite. I mean, Hoth is my absolute go-to, like, favorite Star Wars destination. Why?
Well, for me, it was definitely the snow. I mean, it was because of the snow. I grew up in Maryland. We had snow. I love snow. I was a snowboarder. I loved going out and playing in the snow. So that was the whole thing. It was like to see this cool snow ice planet, being able to kind of go out there and be like, oh wow, I'm at Hoth right now. I can act out these stories. So
I've never thought about that. That, you know, everyone that, you know, grew back east or whatever, or in a, you know, snowy climate, they have that complete parallel. But you can go ride a snow horse on Hoth. You know, they got these, you know, big monsters out there. It's just the coolest environment. And,
No pun intended.
no, and Hoth is what, only 45 minutes of screen time?
Oh, if that.
If that.
That much,
And
yeah.
it's just left this mark on every one of us that it's just, it's a snow planet. We've all been in the snow, and it's just such a special place. Well, Jay, we actually met you through your job at Disney. How long have you worked for Disney?
I've been a cast member for about 6 years. Actually, it'll be 6 years next month in the beginning of September.
Well, as a cast member, when did you first hear about the Galactic Starcruiser experience?
I remember being a guest in the park in Epcot when the announcement was made that Lucasfilm was, or Disney was purchasing Lucasfilm. I was just amazed. I thought it was the best move ever. I thought there was great ties throughout the history of Disney and Star Wars, or Disney and Lucasfilm, and I thought it was a perfect match. I remembered like rumors that there was going to be this Star Wars hotel at some point, that was one of the rumored features that Disney was going to come up with, whether it was going to be a Star Wars land or a hotel or something. And I just remembered thinking that either one of those would have been great, a land or a hotel. Any of that would have been amazing. And of course, we got Galaxy's Edge, which was unbelievable. And then when really the hotel started to come to fruition, I was on board. I was like, wow, this is just going to be amazing. I don't care what the cost is. I'm going to want to stay there at some point. You know, little did I know that I was going to be a little bit more a part of that. So that was I remember when the concept art came out, it just, everything throughout that whole progress, I was hooked right from the beginning.
So how did you decide to apply to work on the Galactic Starcruiser?
That was actually a very interesting decision of mine, because when Galaxy's Edge was announced, I decided not to put in for the transfer to go over there, because I wanted to experience that as a guest, and I didn't want working there to ruin that. I didn't want to like have to work there every day and then be like, I really don't want to go and enjoy myself there. When the Starcruiser was announced, I figured this is going to be expensive. I'm probably not going to stay there often. May only be once or whatever that might be. I really was like, if I'm going to work somewhere, this might be where it is. But I still was very unsure, because I really was in a safe place. And I loved what I did at Magic Kingdom. And I just was really happy there. But I went to they had an event where you got to go and look at some of the features of the hotel and get an idea of some of the roles that were going to be provided. And when I walked into that room, and I actually saw a former manager that I had worked with, and she said, "Are you going to apply?" And I said, "I'm not really sure." And she said, "You need to apply." And I started really looking around and listening to the stories that they were going to be telling. And I'm like, you know what? I think I need to do this. And when I got home that night, I talked to my wife, and I basically said, you know what? I think I need to, it's going to be a little bit of a step back for me, but I need to do this. And I put in for it that night for 3 different roles, because I decided I had to be there. So I put in for 3 different roles.
So what was the application process like? Was it just, I wanted these roles, and then was there any more talking about it, or was it just a straightforward process for you?
So it was a little bit unlike another transfer at Disney. You did have to go through an interview process. So I interviewed for 3 different roles. I got picked for the interview process for the 3 roles that I put in for. I really didn't know like how to present myself in those interviews, because again, this was something that was never been done before.
Right. So, no one's ever seen this. How do you know what to say?
I didn't know like how to really like, what did they want to hear? I heard that, you didn't have to be a Star Wars fan to work there. So I was like, do I want to come off too much of a Star Wars fan in these interviews? I think that ended up coming across that way anyway, just because I was so excited. So the interview process was really a blur for me. I really don't even remember what I said. Yeah, I think really what Disney always does with cast members, and when they want to try to find the right cast members, they look for somebody that really has a passion for what they do, and the immersive storytelling is what they want. And I think that, they saw that in the cast members that they picked, and I was one of the ones that was selected, and it was great to be among that first crew.
Can you share the other two roles that you went for?
Food and beverage, because I love the food at Disney, and I always had a kind of a thing for wanting to get into that side of the business. And the other one was the roamer position, which is kind of a jack of all trades. They do a lot on the ship. It was going to be a lot more with the interaction with the guest in that role. So I put in for those two roles, as well as the role that I got, which was the custodial role, which was what I always was at Disney. So I had a feeling that when they said that they were going to pick what I was most experienced in, that I was going to be continued in the custodial role, which I was fine with because I get a lot of guest interaction with that as well.
So we know you as the crucial crew member. What is your exact title?
So it is the Disney term for the role is custodial, but we like to kind of not use that term on the ship. We have kind of tend to use the term sanitation department.
Cool. Nice.
Make it a little bit more Star Wars language.
Sure.
So we kind of made that up as we went along, and it wasn't told for us to do that, but we kind of call ourselves the sanitation team to make it a little bit more Star Wars language.
Yeah. So what was the training like? Since this is such a different experience than just your, the daily park experience, what was the training like?
So I've heard it was kind of similar to what Galaxy's Edge was, and also even Pandora, where we had to go in and we had to learn a little bit of lingo, different language terms. So there was like an onboarding process of, okay, so this is the immersive storytelling that we are doing for our guests. And, this is the kind of language that you need to learn as far as certain terms that you're going to use. You're not going to use these earthly terms anymore. So we learned all that, and they told us, we had a lot of leeway with who we wanted to be as our characters. So I went home and opened up Google Notes and the Google Keep, and basically created my whole backstory from all the way back 8 years before the Battle of Yavin, which was when I was born. So I really dived into it and what I was going to bring to the table, and our backstory. We were at free will to kind of the little the better. Actually, I felt that me being a Star Wars fan actually kind of hurt me a little bit, because I actually have to dumb it down a lot. When some of the passengers come up to me and they start talking about some of the characters and history, I gotta actually play it dumb a little bit and be like, I don't know who you're talking about. Yeah, so it's kind of weird. Like, I kind of envy some of the cast members that have no Star Wars knowledge.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm kind of curious, is that when you put together this detailed backstory, was there any kind of Star Wars timeline police that you needed to kind of run your backstory through, and was there any kind of approval process for your backstory?
So no, like I said, they don't really want us to going up to somebody and be like, blah 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 blah, here's my whole backstory. We're here for the passengers. So, but if passengers start asking us questions, we got to be prepared to answer those questions. So, that's why I felt it was really good to have this really extensive backstory. I mean, for example, my backstory has, in my family, my grandfather was Mandalorian. So, if there's a Mandalorian on a ship and he comes up to me and he starts talking to me about Mandalore, I can kind of connect with him in that way and say that that's part of my history and have that connection there. So yeah, so there's little things that we can throw in there, and we do have the liberty to do that, which is really fun.
Do you have any good stories about an interaction that somebody came up with to you and you got to bat it around a little bit?
Honestly, offhand, not anything in particular. I mean, really, when I see that one of the passengers recognizes that I'm really fast on responding and I can tie it into what they're talking to me about, that's just the real joy that I find. But yeah, I love talking to the passengers that really get into character. But I do remember the one character that you had mentioned, the pink Twi'lek that was on the ship. So, and her character name was Amika. That was her Star Wars name. And I remembered reading on Facebook in the group chat that they were coming on board. And I remembered reading their backstory. And one of the things that I knew before I left for that day is I have to meet this couple and I have to play up their story. I went up there and I was just waiting to find them. And I saw them come out of the turbo lift and I went up to her, and in their backstory on the Facebook group chat, they had mentioned that if you come up to us and you possibly know who we are, we're going to pay you off to basically not rat us out to why we're there.
That's awesome.
So I went up to them and I had this, they came off the turbo lift and I looked at them and I said, I had this confused look, like I may have known who they were. And I walked over to them and I looked at her and I kind of pointed at her and I said, Amika. And she looked at me and she said, no, I don't think you know who I am. And she motioned to her husband and he started reaching into his pouch and he pulls out, what was credits, and he kind of like passed them off to me. And I just put out my hand and he just dropped credits in my hand. I put them in my pocket and I looked at her again. I said, yes, I have you mistaken for someone else. And I just walked away.
That's cool. And
that was like one of the coolest interactions that I had. And it was like they played it off so well. And like there was just that brief interaction, but it was so much fun to do that. And those are the greatest ones, some of the simple interactions that I've had.
But that's the magic of Starcruiser, though, is it's the cohesiveness of it. Every one of these cast members is got this extra something that they always bring. It's everywhere you go on that ship.
And you made their trip. I mean, if they was that right after they got off the lift?
It wasn't after they got off the transport coming up to the ship. They had been on the ship for a little bit, so I think they were coming back from their room up to the atrium and or from the Crown of Corellia or wherever. But they walked off the turbo lift into the atrium, and that's when I saw them. I walked right up to them and like I knew who they were, and that's when they kind of stopped me, like, no, you don't know us.
They've told that story. I mean, we haven't talked with them. We hope to talk with them. So Hyperspace Props, if you're listening, we'd love to chat. But but honestly, I guarantee you, they've told that story to somebody several times.
I got chills listening to it.
Just because that's the kind of stuff, to your point, Martin, that makes the trip. That.
Yeah. I'd love to meet them in person. Like, I have no idea who they are. Honestly, it was like just that brief encounter, but it was one of the most memorable ones. So, because they really did have a really cool backstory. So
I would literally slice off real world fingers to help the Wraith, Cole, and Guy that were on our ship. That's the connection we have with those performers. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Well, we formed a relationship with one crew member in particular. I mean, so it was at the very end of our experience, and because we were slow, we didn't realize we needed to make arrangements to get off beforehand. So we were literally the last. I mean, literally on our voyage, we were the last people. And I still remember Andrea. She formed a connection with us mainly because she wanted us to get the heck out of there. but just I'll remember that story about Andrea forever, just like Amika, or I don't know their real names. They'll remember you from that. That's really cool.
Are you able to tell us a little bit of your backstory and your character?
So I am from Lothal. That's what my name tag says on my crew member uniform. I'm from Lothal. I was born, like I said, 8 years before the Battle of Yavin. So I grew up right around the time when I was around 3 years old was when Rebels was occurring on Lothal. And I did cross paths with Ezra Bridger when I was younger. So he's a little bit older than I am. But we did cross paths at one point. He actually stole from my father, who had a speeder parts store, like kind of like a junk dealer. So we had a little bit of a run in there. But my father had a soft heart for him because he knew that he was a street rat without his parents and things like that. So I grew up around that whole Rebels time. We lived outside of the city, Lothal City. So we saw a lot of what happened. There was all these rumors of a Jedi, and we saw the Ghost and, the Phoenix Squadron wreaking havoc on the city. My father actually has a little bit of backstory with the Empire. He actually helped out with the TIE Defender series on Lothal before he realized some of what the Empire was doing, and he disagreed with it. And he was able to get out of the Empire without having anything come against him and the family. So don't really know how that happened, but that's kind of a mystery. But so he kind of kept us safe, got us out of the city far away. So we really weren't there when the siege of Lothal happened. too much. But and then I left Lothal not long after because it had been there really wasn't much to do on the planet because it had been pretty much ravaged by the Galactic Empire. But most of my family's still there. My wife and I actually live currently on Felucia. We wanted somewhere exotic to be. And so like in our travels around the galaxy in between, I came across recruitment for CSL. So I had been with CSL for about 6 years now. And I was on the another ship before I came to the Halcyon. I'm recently with the Halcyon. So
you were on board the Halcyon. Your character was on board the Halcyon during the Crimson Jack episode, incident then.
Yes, I was there as well.
Wow.
That was actually, I was brand new to the ship at that time.
So cool.
This is so awesome.
Yeah. I'm like, okay, now what? What happens next?
Smiles.
And honestly, I
so
have not
big.
even read the issue number 5 yet, so I gotta get caught up on that so I know what happens.
Yeah.
I was just reading issue number 3 tonight, so I'm behind as well.
Okay, so tell us what your typical day is like.
So that's actually changed a lot recently. My schedule has like really gone crazy recently because I'm kind of doing a little bit of a new role within my role. But so I'm actually a part-time cast member, but I am pretty much there full-time, usually 5 days a week. So, and we don't have to be there because we're not the servers or entertainment. We don't have to be there for the duration of the 2-day cruise. So like I might be there on day 1 and not day 2, or I might be there both days. So it's almost, when I get there, I have to think my mindset, okay, what day is it? Or, am I going to be here for both days? How am I going to set up myself with, what I do? And then also how I interact with our passengers. Our role in custodial is very easy. The one thing I love about custodial at Disney is it's not hard to keep the area clean. We usually have enough people to do it. The one reason I love the role so much is because if you ever have noticed the custodial cast members in the parks, it says custodial guest services. So we have a lot of interaction with the guests. Being in the sanitation team on the ship, it's the same way. We're kind of like sanitation passenger services. So we kind of help out and kind of in any way we can. When the guests have questions, they come up to us. They can't tell the difference because we all are dressed the same. So we got to be ready for all that interaction and to help assist with possible data pad questions and maybe direct them in the way, not by actually giving them the answers, but maybe kind of helping guide them to where they need to go without actually telling them the answers, which is kind of tricky. It's kind of just a mix mash of everything. I honestly, most days I forget what day it is, what day of the week it is, but it's great. Like once I get there and I realize, okay, it's day 2, it's Batu day, and I wasn't here yesterday, and I know exactly what I'm going to be doing and what the schedule is and what's going on and where everybody is. Once I get that, and it takes that 10 minutes to figure it all out, then I'm good to go.
So how specialized are the roles for the crew members? Is there cross training, or is it everybody pretty much has their lane and they stick to their assigned duties? What's it like being a crew member?
So yeah, we are probably one of the tightest teams that I've ever been in at Disney. That was put into place pretty early on, always having a lot of meetings together before we opened and really gelling as a team, doing a lot of activities together as a team. And I think, before we started having passengers on the ship and we just got to kind of play around and figure things out, we gelled really well together and we became a tight group. And this opening team was just amazing. Like we all felt like a family, closer than any other team that I worked with in the parks, for sure. I've never felt this close to our entertainment cast on property that I do with our entertainment cast on the ship. We work together so well. We play off of each other. They know we all want to play, and they know who knows what as far as knowledge of Star Wars, and who really like has that deep dive of, I want to really like get involved in as much storytelling as possible. And some of them know that with me, and they'll come up to me and play off a story with me. And I'm just blown away. And I just love it every second of it. I feel like, honestly, I'll go home and some days I feel like I'm part of the entertainment, and it's,
well, you are, you're part of the,
It's just like, I never would have dreamed that. And I thank them every day for like really I tell them that, this is what I used to do when I was 8 years old playing in my backyard. And now I'm doing it every day as a job. And it's amazing. They're making my dreams come true. So and I'm right there with them. So it's just awesome. But yeah, we help each other out all the time. Like, sometimes I'll be running back to the kitchen and grabbing somebody some coffee, or what we really do. Like, if we ask, how do you do this? Can I learn how to do that, or learn what goes on in this area? They're gonna let us in on that knowledge so that we can assist, which is really amazing.
Having gone to the parks a bunch in my whole life, I can say that I don't remember any of the crew members that I worked with. They always were very polite. They always were very nice and smiled. I've never had a bad interaction at a Disney park, which is great. But I don't know anybody's names. Like, I know Andrea.
Right.
And like Jay,
Right.
I hope that when we go back, it would be amazing to run into you, And
We'll be giving you our dates so you can ask for those.
Yeah,
one of those
I'm
things
definitely
on.
gonna. Yeah,
least one.
so and I'm actually planning. Well, tomorrow I'm gonna be on the ship because I wanted to be there for Sarah and Steven.
Oh, yeah.
they're
Yay.
on the ship right now. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
I've already communicated with them, and I'm like, I'm gonna be there tomorrow, so I'm definitely gonna meet you because I've never met them
Crazy
before, and
cool.
I'm so excited.
Yeah.
The fact that you're part of a group that gets to make relationships with guests and actually gets to be part of the magic sauce that puts them together, that's just super, super cool.
So, because you're so involved in the stories with the entertainers, do you have a favorite character, not actor, favorite character or favorite storyline?
So my favorite character on board has to be Croy. That it's because most of my interactions on the ship end up being with Croy.
Okay, so we talked a little bit about the fact that you applied for food services. What are some of your favorite foods on Galactic Starcruiser?
The dinners were outstanding to me. When I did the test cruise and we got to have both dinners because we came both days and we got to experience that. Both of them blew me away. Just the way everything looks so out of this world, but it is things that we eat every day. And the blue shrimp, I mean, we saw pictures of it, but when it came to my table, I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah, it's not quite the same.
Nope.
I stole everyone's shrimp.
I loved
He did.
it, and I
He
love
did.
the fact that now I live on Felucia and I can say,
Yep.
This is the Felucian blue shrimp. I have this all the time. It's wonderful, and I cook it a little bit differently, but it's just so awesome. Like but the bantha, the braised bantha is by far the best.
Oh, I had 2 helpings that first night. I distinctly remember.
Yeah, that's great. But and as far as desserts go, I can't get enough of the mochi ice cream.
And I didn't have any of that, so that's on my list of things to get when we go back.
So that occurs during the sweets and treats. Just
Okay.
give you a heads up. That comes out at that time, and it's really super. It's super good. If you've ever had mochi, I've had mochi, but this takes it to another level. It's amazing. And some of the items in the Sublight Lounge, the little small bites that you can get there, are just outstanding as well. So.
We did our time in the Sublight Lounge.
We're going to do even more next time.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't recall what it was called, but it's basically the green beans, whatever the actual.
Oh yes, those crispy green beans. They're so
cow. Good. Yeah.
That and I also I don't see a lot of people order it, but I'm a huge smoked salmon fan, and the cannoli that's basically smoked salmon in a cannoli is amazing.
They got the 4-person drink there now.
That looks outstanding.
Yeah.
Just so you know, and actually it tastes good too.
Well, there's 4 of us, and there's going to be 4 straws on the drink, so
we'll be in
you
good
can
shape.
join us for
That's right.
in the Sublight Lounge.
Really good.
Yeah, that's a really, really good drink. I think it's the crate reactor. I think that's
The
what that's
crate,
called.
that's exactly right. Well, I have to say, it sounds like you're already living the dream. But if we're going to blue sky this and ask just the big dream question, what would your dream job be at Disney?
So, well, I mean, obviously, now that Lucasfilm is owned by Disney, it would have to be under the Lucasfilm umbrella. If I could figure out a way to stay home based in Florida and not have to move to California, because I really don't want to make another move that big, I would love to work for Lucasfilm. And it would just be amazing to be part of something, even if it had to do with what's going on with Star Wars within the parks and the projects, or if it had to do with the convention circuit, because I love going to the conventions, just whatever it might be. I mean, I live and breathe Star Wars. I always have. And when I go out to eat, my wife, she's sometimes she's like, I can't believe you're doing this. But on the back of my cell phone, I have the CSL insignia on my phone as a sticker, and I will lay my phone upside down so that everybody sees it.
That's cool.
Because I hope that somebody comes by and asks me about it, because I want to talk about it. And I do all the time. And people come and they stop and they ask me, have you been on the Starcruiser? And I'm like, I'm actually a crew member. And they will actually pull up a chair and, do you mind if I ask you some questions? And I'm like, certainly not.
All the questions, bring them.
And I will talk to them for an hour easily about the Starcruiser and Star Wars and everything in between. So yeah, so if I could, I mean, I'm right now, full-time Star Wars, but if I could do it on another level and continue to do it on another level, that would be my dream job.
I mean, there's that whole branch of Lucasfilm that kind of straddles specifically theme parks and Lucasfilm. I mean, you look at like the Matt Martins, you know,
Yes.
the story group, and you know, that's to me is the ultimate playground right there. You've got the best of both
hats
worlds.
off to Matt Martin. I mean, he kind of like catapulted me as the crucial crew member. I mean, you guys did as well. It was kind of between you both. And I met him on the Starcruiser because he came out and he visited us when we were in development, and I got to meet him, which was amazing. And then when I went to Celebration in Anaheim and I went to the Disney Parks panel afterwards, I went up to the stage and I literally yelled out, you know, Matt, it's the crucial crew member. And he like recognized me from that whole bit on Twitter and like came over to me and gave me a fist bump and was like, how you been? How you doing? How is everything on the Starcruiser? So yeah, it's just, it's such I just love the Star Wars community. It's just amazing.
Yeah, it's and going to Celebration just kind of re-solidifies all that. When you get all those people in one room and everyone's just so excited to see you and to elevate you while elevating themselves. You know, it's not a competition at any point. It's just tell me something awesome and I'll tell you something awesome back. I mean, everyone's just so excited about Star Wars.
Right. Yeah, and I went every day. I went to the floor display for Starcruiser, and you know, seeing everybody that was there on the ship, you know, at the Imagineers, and getting to see them again, and it was really cool to just live that up every day and just talk about it all the time. So like, yeah, I tried to wear something CSL every day so that people would ask me about it. So,
well, before we return to Starcruiser, I'm actually going to be coming inked with a Starcruiser tattoo before our next voyage. So one thing about Starcruiser, we walked off and it wasn't 2 weeks that we were off and we had another trip booked. And then we said we have to keep talking about this, and we started a podcast just because of our incredible love for this experience that they've put together. But you've put together a podcast as well. Can you tell us about what you're doing, Jay?
Well, it's very, very early stages, but this is just something so ever since I came down to Florida and I started working at Disney, and my love of Disney has shown through. And I've had tons of people constantly tell me that I should do some sort of blog or podcast or something about Disney or food or something within Disney. I always kind of had in this back of my mind that I would love to do something Star Wars related. When the whole crucial crew member thing kind of started getting out there and everybody started, you know, kind of catching on to that and really liking it, the people I work with, and kind of first it started as a joke, but I'm like, could I really like, you know, promote this and do something with it in a different way? I figured, you know what, let me just start focusing on what I love about Star Wars. You know, I don't get to buy every bit of merchandise or, you know, get to everything that I would love to get to as Star Wars, but I go to all the celebrations. I try to get to the parks at least once a month, the Galaxy's Edge. I'm on the Starcruiser. I try to keep up with all the series. I definitely keep up with all the series on TV and the movies. And I try to keep up with some of the comics and everything. So what I love to read and watch and see and experience, I figured, you know what, why don't I just talk about it in some way? So yeah, so I threw something on a recorder the other day as I was driving in my car to work, and I don't know how it really turned out because it was really bad audio, but we're going to see where it goes and see if people like it and how this kind of turns out. I really don't know what direction I'm going to go in with this, but yeah, I just there's too much to talk about that. I just got to express it, and hopefully, just people enjoy listening to me talk about it, and maybe they'll see something that I really love, and maybe that'll connect them with it, and have them along for the ride with it. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the passion definitely comes across. That was one of the things that was fun when I was listening. And it was like, I feel like I'm talking to somebody who clearly loves not just Star Wars, but Disney. And it's coming across when we're talking to you now. It's actually really cool.
Yeah, and again, I want to keep it, I didn't really have anything scripted. I had, certain things like that I really wanted to touch on. And I had those notations down, so I could just be like, all right, I want to talk about this, but I didn't have anything of what I wanted to say. So it really all came from the heart. So whatever came out, that's what came out. And that's what I figure, if anybody really wants to hear the true self of me and my love of Star Wars, that's the way I want to do it. I don't want it to be scripted or anything like that. So, maybe it'll grow into something else, and maybe it'll be some live streams or something from Galaxy's Edge and things like that. And maybe Celebration London when I get there. Maybe I'll do some live streams. Who knows? We'll see.
So if people want to find that podcast, what's the best way for them to find it?
So my Twitter page is really going to be the best way to get a hold of me. So I'll probably post it on there, which is the Crucial Crew member at Crucial Crew 2021, because that is when I joined the Starcruiser team was in 2021. So it's Crucial Crew 2021. Also, my my Instagram is pretty active, and that is the Crucial Crew member.
Well, Jay, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. It has been a super pleasure to talk with you. We've all been smiling like grinning idiots over on this side, so it's very fun to hear. And again, your passion definitely shows through, and I'm excited for the chance to actually meet you when we come on board.
I'm super excited to meet you finally, Drew. So hopefully I will be there. Christine Martin, I've met you already, and I can't wait to hopefully see you guys again when you come on board. And this time I'm ready to play it up with you guys a little bit more. And again, thank you guys for everything that you do with this podcast. It's been awesome listening. You guys are doing a great job. I tell everyone I can about you. It is a definite gateway to learning about the Starcruiser if you're planning on coming on the cruise. And even if you have already been, it's a great revisit. And I listen to it, and I'm there almost every day. And it just, it's definitely enjoyable to listen to.
Thanks a lot for that. Wow.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Your check's coming next week, so that'll work out really well. So that was Jay, the Crucial Crew member. Thanks again, Jay, for being on the podcast. What a treat it was to talk with him.
His passion is contagious.
Absolutely. And just imagine, I enjoy my job, so especially if my boss is listening, he doesn't listen, but imagine having a job where you're going in and you're actually having fun, you get to interact with other people, you get to try to be a part of their vacation experience, maybe a once-in-the-lifetime kind of experience for them. That was just awesome. So again, Jay, thank you very much. So Christine, if people wanted to find us on the internet, how would they do that?
They can find us at Halcyon_heroes on Twitter, at Heroes of the Halcyon on Instagram, and you can always email us at heroesofthehalcyon@gmail.com.
Well, as always, it's so much fun to shoot the poodoo with all of our Starcruiser fans out there. So until next episode, it's our honor. Let's raise our glasses to Booty!